Long before men built cities and carved crowns from gold, the world was ruled by the wild, endless lands divided into 7 vast kingdoms. Each kingdom had its own ruler: the wolves of the north, the serpents of the marsh, the eagles of the peaks, the panthers of the shadows, the rhinos of the plains, the bears of the mountains, and at the center, the fading realm of the lions, once noble, now fractured and forgotten. For centuries, the 7 kingdoms lived in fragile peace, but greed and pride were stronger than wisdom. The Serpent King desired the northern lands, the eagles grew arrogant in their skies, and the wolves hungered for dominion over all. The Lion Kingdom, once the symbol of courage, had fallen silent. Its king had been slain in an ancient war, and no heir had risen to claim his mantle. The golden throne of the savannah lay empty, a relic of glory turned to dust. Yet legends whispered of a prophecy. It was said that a cub born under the blood moon, whose mane would shine brighter than the sun, would rise when the kingdom stood at the brink of ruin. His roar would shake mountains, and his heart would heal what hatred had broken. That cub was named Aru, born during a storm that tore across the savannah like the breath of destiny itself. Aru's mother, a gentle lioness named Sira, raised him alone among ruins of the old pride. She often told him stories of the 7 kingdoms, of unity, bravery, and the golden days when lions ruled not through fear, but through respect. "Remember, my son," she would say softly as stars glimmered above them. "Strength is not found in claws or teeth. It's found in the heart that dares to protect even when the world turns away." But the world was harsh to orphans of fallen kings. Other animals mocked him. A lion without a pride was nothing. Even among his kind, whispers followed him like shadows. The cub of ghosts, the child of a lost age. Still, Aru grew strong. His mane grew thick and golden, and his eyes glowed like amber fire. He hunted with grace, fought with discipline, and dreamed with fire in his soul. But what set him apart was his mercy. He spared the weak, shared food with the hungry, and even once freed a wounded gazelle from a hunter's snare. "Why show kindness?" asked an old leopard one day. Aru replied, "Because the world has forgotten it." Years passed. The balance of the wilds shattered again. The wolves of the north marched south, their fangs thirsty for blood. The rhinos' herds trampled fields for dominance. The serpents spread poison in shadows, and the skies darkened as the eagles abandoned their vows of peace. Kingdom fought kingdom. The rivers ran red. The savannah burned. Aru, now a young lion with a voice like thunder, watched his homeland crumble. He could no longer remain a silent witness. "If none will protect what is left," he growled, "then I will." His mother, now old and frail, warned him. "The path of unity is the hardest." With a final nuzzle, she whispered, "You are the roar of destiny, my son." And so Aru began his journey, the cub of the fallen king setting out to restore what was lost. The first trial, the Wolf King. His journey led him first to the cold north, where snow blanketed the ground like bones and breath froze in the air. There, in an icy fortress of stone, ruled Faron the Wolf King, fierce, proud, and merciless. His pack dominated the tundra, and his warriors hunted for sport. To them, the lion was an intruder, a fool who dared to cross their borders. Theron laughed when he saw Aru. "You? Unite the kingdoms? I could crush you with one bite." Aru stood firm. "You could," he said calmly, "but that would prove only your strength, not your worth." The wolves snarled, circling him, but Aru's eyes burned steady. "Your kingdom starves while you fight over frozen bones. You have forgotten what it means to lead, not to command with fear, but to serve with purpose." Theron growled, amused. "And what would a cub know of leadership? Enough to know that power without honor destroys all it touches," Aru said. The Wolf King attacked, a blur of silver and muscle. Claws clashed, snow flew, and roars echoed across the frozen plains. The battle raged until both were bleeding, breathless. At last, Aru stood over the fallen king but did not strike. He stepped back and said, "I did not come to conquer but to remind you. Your strength is needed, not wasted." Pharaon looked up, bewildered by mercy. No one had ever spared him before. Slowly, the old wolf lowered his head. "Perhaps," he muttered, "there is still wisdom left in the world." From that day, the wolf kingdom swore allegiance to the lion's vision. The first kingdom had fallen not to blood, but to courage and compassion. The second trial, the serpent's deceit. From the frozen lands, Aru journeyed to the swamps of the Serpent Kingdom, a place where the air hung heavy with mist and deceit. Its ruler, Queen Vashara, was cunning and venomous, feared by all. Her court was filled with spies and whisperers, and her power lay in manipulation, not force. When Aru arrived, she greeted him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "The Lion of the Sun dares to enter the shadows," she hissed. "What brings you to my swamp?" "I come to end the hatred that poisons the world," Aru said. "Then you come to take my power," she replied, coiling around a branch. "No kingdom unites without blood. Shall I prove it?" The serpent struck with blinding speed, but Aru leapt aside. They circled each other, fang against claw, cunning against courage. But even as they fought, Aru refused to kill. Instead, he spoke between breaths. "You rule through fear, yet even your own kind slither away from your shadow. What has your venom brought you, Vashara? Power or loneliness?" The word struck deeper than his claws ever could. The serpent faltered, her coils loosening. For the first time, silence filled the swamp. The eagle tilted his head. "You speak of unity, yet you are bound by gravity. You cannot soar as we do." "Perhaps," Aru said, "but even kings who fly must one day land. And when you do, will the ground still welcome you?" Silence. Elric studied him for a long time. "You speak with wisdom beyond your years. But wisdom does not change the law of nature. The sky was never meant to bow to the earth." Aru's eyes blazed. "Then I will roar until heaven listens." He roared, not with anger, but with purpose. The sound echoed through the peaks, rolling through clouds and stone. Thunder responded like a heartbeat, and lightning split the air. The eagles trembled, not from fear, but awe. For in that sound was not arrogance, but truth, that all living things, no matter how high or low, were bound by the same world. Elric bowed his head. "Perhaps the skies have been too proud," he said quietly. "Very well, Lion of the Plains. Teach me what it means to stand beside, not above." And so, the eagles became the third to join the lion's cause. With wings in the air and fangs on the ground, the dream of unity began to feel real. But as the light of hope spread, darkness crept closer. The betrayal of shadows. Far away in the jungles where the sun barely touched the ground, King Rakar of the Panthers watched with envy. His kingdom thrived in secrecy, his soldiers invisible, his claws dripping with ambition. "7 kingdoms united," he sneered. "There can be no peace without control, and control belongs to those who move unseen." He sent spies into Aru's camp, whisperers who spread doubt among the ranks. They told the wolves that the lions planned to betray them. They told the serpents that the wolves would turn once their hunger returned. Slowly, suspicion began to fester like poison. Aru noticed the unease. Once loyal friends now eyed each other warily. He gathered them at dusk around the great fire and spoke. "We began as strangers," he said, "but together we've done what no prophecy alone could promise. We've trusted each other. Do not let shadows undo what light has built." But even as he spoke, the shadows grew thicker. That night, the panther assassins struck. They moved like ghosts through the camp, silent and swift. They poisoned the serpent scouts, ambushed the wolf sentries, and set fire to the tents. chaos erupted. Roars, hisses, and screams filled the air. Aru fought like a storm, claws flashing, mane burning with light from the flames around him. But the enemy was many, and in the chaos, his closest friend, a wolf named Kyle, was struck down. "No!" Aru roared, catching him as he fell. Kyle's fur was scorched, his breathing shallow. "You said we'd see the 7 kingdoms united," the wolf whispered weakly. "And we will," Aru vowed. Kale smiled faintly. "Then roar for me, brother." As the wolf's eyes dimmed, Aru's roar tore through the night, a sound of grief and fury that shook even the assassins to their bones. Weeks later, as the army healed, Aru led them to the flatlands of the Rhino Kingdom, where herds roamed like moving mountains. Their ruler, King Durok, was old, proud, and weary of war. His people had suffered under endless raids and now trusted no one. When Aru approached, the Rhino guards lowered their horns. Durok stepped forward, his massive frame scarred from battles past. "Lion of the plains," he rumbled, "we have seen dreamers before. They speak of peace, then bring war." Aru bowed his head. "I do not bring peace through promises, but through proof. Look at my army. Wolves, serpents, eagles, enemies once, brothers now. The 7 kingdoms can stand as one." The rhino snorted. "Fine words, but where was the lion when the plains burned? Where was your roar when we buried our young?" Aru looked him in the eye. "I was still learning to roar." The blunt honesty struck the old king silent. For a long while, Durok said nothing. Then he nodded slowly. "You remind me of what I once believed in. But if you are to lead, prove you can protect." As if fate waited for the challenge, a tremor shook the earth. From the horizon came a horde of wild hyenas, scavengers united under a cruel new leader, drawn by the chaos of war. They swept across the plains like a plague, tearing into the rhino borders. Aru didn't hesitate. "Form a circle. Protect the young," he commanded. The wolves flanked the herds, the serpents struck from the grass, and eagles rained down from above. The battle was fierce and chaotic, dust and blood mingling in the heat. In the heart of the storm, Aru faced the hyena warlord, scarred, grinning, cruel. "This land belongs to no king," the hyena spat. "Then it belongs to those who defend it," Aru replied. They clashed. The lion's claws tore through the dust. The hyena's jaws snapped at his throat. It was a brutal dance of strength and will. Finally, with a thunderous roar, Aru drove him to the ground. When the dust cleared, the hyenas fled into the horizon, broken and defeated. Durok approached the lion, bloodied but proud. "You fight not for power but for peace," he said. "That is what makes a true king." And so, the rhinos of the plains joined the lion's banner. 4 kingdoms united, 3 remained. The shadow of the mountains. But while Aru gathered allies, the bears of the mountains watched. Their ruler, Queen Thara, was the eldest of all, wise but weary. She had seen generations of war and believed peace was a child's dream. Word reached her of the lion's rise, of his growing alliance. Her council urged her to crush him before he became unstoppable. She gazed toward the horizon where the sun met the plains. "Perhaps he is the dawn we waited for," she murmured, "or the flame that will burn us all." Aru knew his journey would lead there next, to the most dangerous test of all. For strength could win battles, but wisdom alone could win peace. The dawn of unity, the journey had changed everything. Where once 7 kingdoms had snarled and clawed at each other's borders, now 4 stood side by side, lions, wolves, serpents, eagles, and rhinos, united under a single purpose. But unity always draws the gaze of envy. In the farthest peaks, where snow met storm and legend met silence, the bears of the mountains prepared for war. Their queen, Thara the Stone-Hearted, was the oldest living ruler. Her fur was white as frost, her eyes deep as winter. For decades she had watched kings rise and fall, alliances bloom and rot, and promises crumble into dust. To her, peace was a child's dream, born only to die in the claws of ambition. When word came that a lion claimed to unite the 7 kingdoms, she laughed. A deep, sorrowful laugh that echoed through the caverns. "Another dreamer," she said. "Another fool who believes in harmony where only hunger reigns." Yet, as the winds howled across the peaks, she could not silence the whisper of doubt that crept into her heart. What if this one is different? The march to the mountains. Aru's army crossed rivers and plains, marching where no alliance had ever dared to tread. The wolves padded silently, the serpents slithered through grass, the eagles soared ahead, and the rhinos thundered behind like living mountains. It was a sight so magnificent that even the wind paused to watch. As they reached the base of the mountains, snow began to fall, soft at first, then fierce, like shards of glass slicing the air. The soldiers grew weary. The younger ones looked to Aru, waiting for strength in his eyes. He climbed a ridge and looked back at them. Thousands of creatures, once enemies, now breathing as one. His mane blazed golden even in the white storm. He roared above the wind. "Do not see mountains. See the summit. Do not see cold. See fire within. The 7 kingdoms are not separated by stone, but by fear, and fear will not rule us today." His words poured warmth into frozen hearts. The army roared back, their voices rising through the snow like thunder, a sound of unity that reached even Queen Thara's throne. From her cave of ice, she listened, and for the first time in centuries, she felt something crack within. Not the mountain, but her heart. The Queen of Stone. When Aru reached the mountain gates, the bears waited, a wall of power and fur. Queen Thara stepped forward, towering above them all. Her gaze was not cruel, only tired, ancient, and sad. "Lion of the plains," she said, her voice echoing like a storm through stone, "why do you bring your war to my mountains?" "I bring no war," Aru replied. "I bring an end to it." The queen laughed softly. "And what gives you that right? Because you are strong? Because you roar louder than others? Only one kingdom remained, the Panthers of the Shadows. Their ruler, King Rakar, whose betrayal had caused the deaths of many, still lurked in the jungles. But his power was fading. His own warriors had begun to question him, whispering of the lion's rise and the spreading peace across the lands. When Aru arrived at the jungle's edge, he came not with armies, but alone. The others protested, but he said, "The war of the heart cannot be fought with claws." The jungle was silent as he entered. Darkness closed around him, and eyes watched from every shadow. Finally Rekar appeared, thinner, older, haunted. "So," he sneered, "the Golden King finally comes to finish what he started?" "I didn't come to fight," Aru said softly. "I came to forgive." Rekar flinched as if struck. "Forgive? After all I've done? I destroyed your camp. I killed your friend." "Yes," Aru said, "but I will not let your darkness poison what's left of the world." The panther's voice broke. "And if I don't ask for forgiveness?" "Then I'll give it anyway," Aru said, "because unity cannot exist without mercy." Rakar trembled. The shadows that clung to him seemed to melt away. His eyes glistened. Slowly, painfully, he bowed. "Then let the last kingdom stand with you," he whispered. And thus, the 7 kingdoms were finally won. The roar heard across the world. When the 7 banners of beast and bird were raised together under the same sun, the world itself seemed to breathe again. Rivers flowed clearer, forests bloomed richer, and the air grew softer. Aru stepped forward and roared. The sound rolled across the plains, through mountains and valleys, through forests and skies. A sound not of war, but of awakening. And from that day forth, the prophecy was fulfilled. The 7 kingdoms no longer existed as separate empires. They became one realm, the circle of life, ruled not by a king's crown, but by the courage of hearts that dared to believe. Epilogue, the legacy of the lion. Years passed. The Lion of 7 Kingdoms became a legend whispered to every cub and hatchling. A story of how one roar could change the world. When Aru grew old, he stood once more at the edge of the savannah, watching the sun rise over peaceful lands. Beside him stood the children of every kingdom. Lion cubs, wolf pups, bear cubs, even young eagles perched proudly. They played together without fear, without difference. Aru smiled. "My roar will fade," he said softly, "but its echo will live in you." He looked to the horizon one last time, golden light bathing his mane. Then, as the sun reached its peak, he closed his eyes and let the wind carry him into eternity. But that day, when the wind blew through the lands, every creature, from ant to eagle, paused. Because in the air they could still hear it. A roar, distant, powerful, eternal, reminding the world that courage, compassion, and unity never die.